When I went down to the newsroom to explain the decision, clearly and quite rightly, the journalists on the News of the World, who very honourable journalists who've been putting out a newspaper under this scrutiny for a long time and with great exclusives and great pride in their newspaper, were very sad and baffled by management's decision to close the paper. What I was saying to them is that right now you may not be able to, right in this moment, understand why we've done it, but as the months, and I think I said in a year's time, I think you will come to a realization that we actually did the right thing. Once you have broken the trust with the readers, there's not much going back, and unfortunately the News of the World used to lead the headlines for the right reasons, for its the cricket scandal recently, but for the last few months, and probably actually for the last few years, it has been leading the headlines for the wrong reasons. And once that trust was broken, we felt that was the right decision. Of course, it wasn't the right decision for the hundreds of journalists who worked on there, who had done nothing wrong, were in no way responsible, many of whom were at the News of the World, many of these have spent years at the News of the World, but are not culpable for anything. And we have endeavoured to find a job for every single one of them who will be offered a job. We saw the story at the same time that you all saw the story. My instant reaction, like everybody else, was one of shock and disgust that a family who had suffered so much already had these allegations that would clearly added immeasurably to their suffering. The first thing I did was write to Mr. and Mrs. Dowler with a full apology to say that we would get to the bottom of the allegations, and if anyone, either representing the News of the World or authorised by a professional journalist at the News of the World, which I still find staggering to believe, but if we find out that is true, and I have every confidence that News International and the police will get to the bottom of that, and they should, as a priority. After 2007, there was committee hearings. News International conducted the internal investigation that you covered extensively in the previous session, and the police closed the inquiry. And from my own knowledge, in 2006, because my own phone, as everyone knows now, was accessed by Glenmore Care, my own voicemail, were accessed by Glenmore Care on a regular basis. I had the same knowledge that everyone else was, and whether you can say it's a myth now, clearly we have now seen evidence that is not the case. But it wasn't a myth, it was what everyone believed at the time. I can't comment on what others knew and when they knew it and how they knew it. I can only tell this committee what I knew while I was editor of the News of the World and subsequently editor of The Sun. And as chief executive, I can account for my actions in trying to get to the bottom of this story. And in 2006, from my own personal point of view, I was the editor of The Sun. I have been approached by the police to explain the nature of acts.